US State Department warns Russia, no deals until fighting stops in Ukraine. Trump special envoy to attend talks in Paris. Ukraine will be discussed. And Trump aware of Zelensky's invitation. Will he visit Ukraine? The latest news next. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Trump special envoy Steve Witkoff will travel to Paris this week to hold talks on Ukraine, among other topics. Reported by European Pravda with reference to Politico. About details, two Politico sources familiar with the preparations for the visit reported that Witkoff will meet with French President Emmanuel Macron, while Rubio will meet with French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot. During the visit, they plan to discuss Ukraine, Iran and trade issues in the context of Donald Trump's tariff war. The trip will be the first visit of American top officials to France since Vice President J.D. Vance's arrival at the summit in February. France, together with the UK, leads a group of countries actively working on possible options for security guarantees for Ukraine. The US will not enter into any bilateral agreements with Russia or ease sanctions until a ceasefire is achieved in Ukraine, states US State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce. There would be no negotiations, no decisions, no arrangements until after the carnage has stopped, she told reporters. Bruce was responding to questions regarding recent contacts with Russia and whether Washington might consider easing sanctions. She also noted that after the missile strike on Sumy during Palm Sunday, a troubling pattern has begun to emerge, raising further questions about who generally seeks peace and a ceasefire. Bruce described the war in Ukraine as a mid-grinder, saying that nothing has changed. Yet we continue to work obviously for the ceasefire, she added. About visit of Witkoff to Russia, last week Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff visited St. Petersburg, where he met with Russia's investment envoy Kirill Dmitriev before holding talks with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. The White House welcomed the visit, calling the discussion productive. Now, there is incentive for Russia to end this war, and perhaps that could be economic partnerships with the United States, but we need to see a ceasefire first, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said on Monday. Quote, the president and the presidential envoy Witkoff made that very clear to the Russians. She also stated that President Donald Trump is convinced Russia wants to bring the war in Ukraine to an end, a conclusion he reached following Witkoff's visit to Russia. The United States has softened its position on Ukrainians' repayment of aid in ongoing talks over access to mineral resources, reported by Bloomberg with reference to its sources, as reported by European Pravda. Sources familiar with the matter noted that the United States appears to have eased its demands for Ukraine to repay aid during negotiations over an economic deal between the two nations. Following technical-level talks in Washington last week, the administration of US President Donald Trump reportedly reduced its estimate of the aid provided to Kyiv since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, from US $300 billion to around $100 billion. This revised figure aligns more closely with Ukrainians' own estimate of just over $90 billion. The Ukrainian government has declined to comment prior to the signing of any agreement. Neither the White House nor the U.S. Treasury Department has responded to requests for comment. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the U.S. Treasury said that the technical talks had been very productive. He added that the parties hoped to conclude the talks soon. One of the sources noted that the talks between the technical teams on the 11th to 12th of April were constructive. However, he added that the US still views the deal as an opportunity to recover costs from Ukraine through profits generated by an appropriate fund, the size of which remains unspecified in the latest draft. The sources stressed that the Trump administration was reluctant to commit to future investments in the fund and is postponing the issue for further discussion. Instead, Washington insists that US spending on the war should be considered a contribution to the fund. They noted that Ukrainian negotiators are finding it difficult to dissuade their American counterparts from this approach, which underpins some of the toughest US demands. The sources also noted that the Trump administration is reluctant to commit to future investment in the fund and prefers to consider its wartime support as a contribution instead. This point remains a major sticking issue for Ukrainian negotiators. Lawyers from both sides are expected to continue working remotely this week to move the agreement forward. A Ukrainian source added that Kyiv has been tasked with presenting concrete project proposals at the next round of talks. US President Donald Trump is aware of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's invitation to visit Ukraine, but there are currently no such plans, said White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Leavitt was asked whether Trump had seen Zelensky's invitation and what the US leader thought about it.
Actually, I have not talked to the president about that, or if he saw Zelensky's offer. I'm sure he did. I haven't spoken to him about it. I can ask him what he thinks. I certainly don't have any plans to share on his potential trip to Ukraine.
She also emphasized that she is not aware of any plans for Trump to potentially visit Ukraine. About Zelensky's invitation, earlier Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on US President Donald Trump to visit Ukraine to see what is really happening there. The Ukrainian leader emphasized that such a visit is necessary before making any decisions or plans regarding peace negotiations with Russia. Notably, Trump has not made any foreign trips during his nearly 3 months in office. His first expected destination in Saudi Arabia. Also, Trump made a controversial statement about Zelensky and former US President Joe Biden. According to the American leader, Zelensky and Biden supposedly did an absolute horrible job by allowing the war to begin. On the night of April 16th, Russia launched another drone attack targeting Ukraine from 5 directions, according to the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to the report, Russian forces launched a total of 97 attack drones, Shahed-type UAVs and decoy drones from the following directions: the Russian cities of Kursk, Bryansk, Milerovo and Primorsk-Akhtarsk, Chauda in temporarily occupied Crimea. The Ukrainian defense engaged aviation, anti-aircraft missile units, electronic warfare units, mobile fire groups of the defense forces of Ukraine. 57 drones were confirmed shot down across eastern, northern, central and southern Ukraine. Additionally, 34 decoy drones were lost without causing harm. The following regions suffered from the attack: Sumy, Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Kyiv, Poltava. About Russian strikes on Ukraine. Since the start of the full-scale war, Russia has used drones, various types of missiles, artillery and guided aerial bombs to strike Ukraine. Frontline regions and settlements are the most affected. The enemy has been using the daily nighttime drone attacks over the past year. For example, during the night of April 15th, Russia launched a ballistic missile and 52 Shahed-type attack drones. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.